Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I take questions, I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. This has been one of the toughest years we've ever faced as a nation. And the pandemic, the economic crisis, calls for racial justice, historic and punishing wildfires and storms. So this season of reflection carries a much deeper meaning than it usually does. Over 320,000 lives lost to this virus. And Jill and I send our prayers, as I'm sure all of you do, to all who are facing this dark winter with an empty seat at the dinner table where a loved one used to sit and talk and laugh and reminisce. Our hearts go out to all of you who have fallen on hard times, through no fault of your own, I might add. Unable to sleep at night, weighed down with the worry of what tomorrow will bring for you and for your family. We're especially grateful for the healthcare workers on the front lines, the scientists, the researchers, the clinical trial participants on the front lines of the vaccine who deserve our thanks and who delivered us scientific breakthrough. And for all of you who have deployed family members in the military, we know what it's like. We know what that experience is like, how difficult it can be, especially at this time of the year. Our family knows your sacrifice, and our hearts are always with you. But keep the faith. Throughout this year, we had to forego many of our favorite holiday traditions we have as families, as communities, and as a country. For the Bidens, we usually have 20 to 25 family members over for Christmas dinner. And then the immediate family, 14 of our kids and grandkids and their spouses for coming down the stairs on Christmas morning, but not this year. Like we did over Thanksgiving, we all have to care enough for each other that we have to stay apart just a little bit longer. I know it's hard. We have a long way to go, but we're grateful that we've got the vaccine. And yesterday, in an effort to instill some confidence in the vaccine, I had my shot administered in public, and I got a chance to thank all those nurses and docs at Christiana Hospital for what they've been putting up with and doing for so long. I look forward to the second shot, and I have absolute confidence in the vaccine. But we're in short supply. Taking the vaccine from a vial into the arm of millions of Americans is one of the biggest operational challenges the United States has ever faced. We're 300 million people. And we're going to take many more months for that to happen. In the meantime, this pandemic rages on. Experts say things are going to get worse before they get better, notwithstanding the fact we have the vaccine. As you all know, we're averaging a death rate of close to 3,000 people a day. That means we're going to lose tens of thousands of more lives in the months to come. And the vaccine won't be able to stop that. So we'll still have to remain vigilant. We need everyone to mask up, stay socially distanced, avoid large gatherings, particularly inside. We need to work in a bipartisan way. That's the only way we're going to get through this in tough times. And we have our first hint and glimpse of bipartisanship. I applaud the Congress, their economic relief package that included funding for vaccine distribution, much-needed temporary relief for workers, families, and small businesses. In this election, the American people made it clear they want us to reach across the aisle and work together on matters of national concern to get something done. And I believe that to be the case from the very beginning of my campaign, and I'm happy to see members of Congress heeding that message as well from their own constituents. Leaders in both House and Senate, both parties, deserve credit for making the hard compromises to get this done. But like all compromises, it's far from perfect. But it does provide vital relief at a critical moment. However, as I've said all along, this bill is just the first step, a down payment, in addressing the crises, more than one, that we're in. There's a lot more work to do. Early next year, I'm going to put forward to the Congress my plans for what comes next. We'll need more help to fully distribute the vaccine. We're going to need more testing in order to be able to open our schools. We're going to need more funding to help firefighters and police, many of whom are being laid off as I speak. And the same with nurses, risking their lives in the front lines. The same for millions of hurting families who are unable to put food on the table, pay rent, or the mortgage. Unemployment's extended for another 10 weeks. It's going to take a lot longer than that. But Congress did its job this week. And I can and I must ask them to do it again next year. But even with the changes in approach I'm going to put in place in late January, people are still going to be getting sick and dying from COVID. One thing I promise you about my leadership during this crisis, I'm going to tell it to you straight. I'm going to tell you the truth. And here's the simple truth. Our darkest days in the battle against COVID are ahead of us, not behind us. So we need to prepare ourselves to steel our spines. As frustrating it is to hear, it's going to take patience, persistence, and determination to beat this virus. There'll be no time to waste in taking the steps we need to turn this crisis around. My administration will start to do its part on our first day in office with masking requirements, a new strategy for testing, accelerated protection, protective gear. And we're going to challenge Congress and the American people to step up immediately as well to do their part. As with the relief bill passed by Congress, there's another challenge which my administration will confront on a bipartisan basis, a massive cybersecurity breach against the U.S. companies, many of them, as well as federal agencies. And there's still so much we don't know, including the full scope of the breach or the extent of the damage it has caused. But we know this much. This attack constitutes a grave risk to our national security. It was carefully planned and carefully orchestrated. It was carried out by using sophisticated cyber tools. The attackers succeeded in catching the federal government off guard and unprepared. Foreign actors have been working this breach since late last year, at least last year, setting the landscape to compromise our systems, scraping up sensitive information from our world-class tech sector and from private businesses and from United States government agencies. The truth is this: the Trump administration failed to prioritize cybersecurity. It did that from eliminating or downgrading cyber coordinators in both the White House and at the State Department, to firing the director of Cyberspace and Infrastructure Security Agency, to President Trump's irrational downplaying of the seriousness of this attack. Enough's enough. In an age when so much of our lives are conducted online, cyber attacks must be treated as a serious threat by our leadership at the highest levels. We can't let this go unanswered. That means making clear and publicly who is responsible for the attack and taking meaningful steps to hold them in account. Initial indications, including from Secretary Pompeo, Secretary of State, and Attorney General William Barr, suggest that Russia is responsible for this breach. It certainly fits Russia's long history of reckless, disruptive cyber activities. But the Trump administration needs to make an official attribution. This assault happened on Donald Trump's watch when he wasn't watching. It's still his responsibility as president to defend American interests for the next 4 weeks. But rest assured that even if he does not take it seriously, I will. While I'm disappointed by the response of President Trump, I was pleased to see leaders in both parties in the Congress speak out loudly and clearly on this attack. Again, I want to thank prominent Republicans in the Senate, particularly for speaking out. It's a sign a sign that with the new administration, we can confront these threats on a bipartisan basis with a united front here at home. That should be encouraging to the American people and a warning to our adversaries. In the meantime, the President's team for the next 4 weeks need to cooperate fully, which they haven't been doing, to share information that becomes available on both the impact and our response to ensure a smooth transition to protect the American people as administrations change. Over the next month, I intend to continue focusing on building my team so that the right people are in place on day one of my administration to take over this effort, to prioritize cybersecurity across the board. And I'll consult with experts to plan for the steps that my administration will take in order to secure our systems, improve our cyber defenses, and to better withstand future attacks that we know will come, and to impose cost on those who conduct them. And I fully expect bipartisan support from this based on what we've heard so far. Our adversaries are highly capable. Cyber threats are among the greatest threats to our global security in the 21st century. And I believe we have to treat them with the same seriousness of purpose that we treated threats of other unconventional weapons. We have to work with our allies to establish clear international rules and mechanisms to enforce them, and consequences for those countries that violate them. I want to close with this. As I look at the first of what will be millions of vaccinations going in the arms of Americans after hundreds of thousands of lives lost, a Congress finally passing an economic relief package after months and months of delay, and a new urgency for a bipartisan approach to cybersecurity after years of a president who refused to stand up to our adversaries and hold them accountable. I'm reminded of the quote this season from a Jesuit priest named Alfred Delp. He wrote, quote, "Advent is a time for rousing." Delp believed that first we are shaken to our depths, and then we're ready for a season of hope. As a nation, we've certainly been shaken to our depths this year. Now it's time to awaken, to get moving, time for hope. We've gotten through tough times before in this nation. We'll get through these difficult times as well. And we'll do it by coming together, by working with one another, by being, you've heard me say many times, what we are at our best, the United States of America. There are certain things that rise way above partisan differences that threaten the United States. There are national security interests that require us to cooperate. And I'm confident we'll be able to do that. After a year of pain and loss, it's time to unite, to heal, to rebuild. For all those who are suffering right now, who've had enormous loss, and lie awake at night wondering what tomorrow's bring, I'd say, well, God bless you all, and I promise you, we're going to continue to push as hard as we can to finish the job. May God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you all. Now I'll be happy to take some questions. Megan, I'll let you tell me who's...
Thank you, Mr. President-elect. President Obama once referred to this emerging cyber battlefield as the Wild West. President Trump, in commenting on this most recent breach, said the situation was well under control. Given what you just said about this, that it represents a grave risk, do you believe it also represents an act of war, and will you respond in kind if so?
The answer is, first of all, it is a grave risk, and it continues. I see no evidence that it's under control. I've seen none. Heard of none. Defense Department won't even brief us on many things. So I know of nothing that suggests it's under control. This president hasn't even identified who's responsible yet. Number two, the question of the damage done remains to be determined. We have to look at very closely the nature of the breaches, how extensive they are, and what damage has been done. And thirdly, there's going to be a necessity, as President Obama and I and our administration talked about. We need international rules of the road on cybersecurity. We have to bring along our allies and our friends so we hold everyone accountable who breaches any of these basic fundamental rules. And lastly, I believe that when I learn the extent of the damage and, in fact, who is formally responsible, they can be assured that we will respond, and probably respond in kind. There's many options which I will not discuss now.
Why not lay out those kind of options publicly, though? Isn't part of the issue here deterrence and the fact that Russia felt some impunity, if it is indeed Russia, to do what they've done here?
We have not done that in any other areas where we have faced international crises. We don't sit here and say that we are going to strike you with a nuclear weapon. We don't sit and we're going to say and so on. Let us determine what the extent of the damage is, and I promise you, there'll be a response.
On another issue, sir, as you know, the runoff elections in Georgia could well determine whether there's a Democratic Senate in January or a Republican Senate in January. Are you waiting for the outcome of those two races to make some of the final selections for your cabinet, including the Attorney General, the most significant outstanding cabinet secretary you're yet to pick?
No, not based on the Attorney General. It's just a matter of getting to it and through it and being able to announce them all. They'll all be announced either just before or just after. We're going to make an announcement tomorrow, and we may have another announcement